Hello and welcome. I am Lisa Barnett, and I am thrilled to have you join me here today. I am very excited to introduce you to Jeffrey and Clayton, the inventors and founders of Focused Life Force Energy, also known as FLFE. Jeffrey and Clayton have spent years exploring consciousness fields worldwide and were deeply influenced by Dr. David Hawkins' work. They've tracked shifts in global consciousness over time and have applied this understanding to FLFE's development. I was called to their work many years ago. And as many of you know, I've been working in the Akashic Records for over 30 years. So back in the 90s, few people had heard about the Akashic Records. And my source of information was directly from the Akashic Record keepers. And they asked me to assist them in re-anchoring the Akash back on Earth. So at that time, one important idea they have always focused on back then and still today was to maintain a high vibration to be able to access the Akashic Records and create the life your soul desires. So I read Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins back when it was published in 1994. And that book, which influenced Jeffrey and Clayton also, helped me to understand a foundational philosophy which included a map of consciousness that really helps categorize human emotions and states of being on a logarithmic scale from 1 to 1,000. So if anyone has studied with me, you know that because we definitely do quite a bit of work around emotions and this scale of consciousness. So when I found FLFE back in 2021, I realized how important it was to me personally and to the Akashic School to assist students and clients hold a higher vibration with the assistance of this amazing FLFE work. And so when I realized that, not only have I been part of FLFE, I decided that I really felt it was important for me to share this wisdom with you. And so I reached out to Jeffrey and Clayton and really asked if they would join me in this conversation. And so I would love it if you could tell me a little bit more, Jeffrey, about how you created FLE and a little bit about how it works.
Mhm. Well, I met Clayton in my business. He was coaching me, and he was using Dr. David Hawkins' work in measuring consciousness using conscious kinesiology to measure where I was in various areas of my life. And so during that coaching, I got very comfortable with kinesiology and its promise to help us access the truth, and to access our levels of consciousness and where we stand and what may be holding us back. And Clayton and I became friends during that time, and um, we were both in various spiritual paths, and one that I happened to be in. Family called me for some kind of hands-on Diksha blessings, and the boy, their son, was in and out of consciousness. He was kind of on his way out of this lifetime, and they asked, and he seemed to be helped by the meditation work that I did with him. But Clayton had a I asked Clayton about it, and he had a similar experience, health with a health challenge. And there was a inventor up in British Columbia that helped him, and I thought it might help this boy. So my initial kind of FLFE experience, or from the very kind of roots, was based in service and how do I help? How do I help this family? And that became sort of the standard for us as we went forward. It was really how we use this system or technology as we became aware of it And so what we're doing is we're activating a consciousness field, all over the world, and it's at unconditional love. And if you like, we can get more into the original invention and all that, but just what it is, it's a unconditional love consciousness field with higher boosts and um, clearing of the land for the property subscriptions to kind of clear out the trauma that might be affecting us from the history of that place. Because as we know, there's consciousness fields everywhere, including those houses and apartments we might move into uh, that affect us. So we have our own consciousness field. We have the land, this historic consciousness field. So the FLFE service clears the trauma on the land, and then creates this sort of optimal environment for evolution of consciousness or rising in consciousness.
I love that. I was kind of reading about that earlier today, and um, for me, in our family, I'm a Californian, but my husband's family were back in Virginia, and we would go back often during the summer with our small children. And our son was very, very sensitive, and he did not like it back there. And I realized it was very much because of so much earth held trauma of the civil wars, of all of the wars. And he could really feel what he felt was ghosts. And I believe that residual trauma that the people had, and it gets written into the land. And literally, I realized that this was not particularly a useful place to take my kids because they were so sensitive to the trauma. So I think that's amazing that FLFE will shift that wherever you are, if it's your house or your land or your apartment, that because I know often in the Akashic records, when we do energy healing, we'll go to the land because that land is holding the trauma. So that is really, I think, phenomenal and fabulous to realize for pretty much everyone on the planet at this point, right? So, so Clayton, if you want to share something about like the benefits, I know what Jeffrey's saying is it really there are so many, and but just love to kind of hear if you can list a few off for us.
Sure, sure. Well, maybe I'll mention something about the land. It's interesting when Jeff and I first started FLFE back in 2013. When we put a property on the service, it would take about 3 days for it to go up to that unconditional love area, around 540, 550. The default for FLFE is 550 now. And so what we did was we directed the technology. It's a big machine. We directed it to clear the negative history of the land first, and then add the positive energy. So now FLFE, the land will go to like 550 within sometimes seconds or just a few minutes. Because what we realized was that just like if you're going to paint your house, you want to clean off, you want to wash the walls, right? If it's outside, pressure wash, you get all the dirt off, the cobwebs, whatever you have. And then when you paint it, it looks really good. But if you don't sand it and prep it and prime it and do all that work ahead of time, it doesn't look as good. So that was an interesting principle in raising consciousness in a property, is to deal with the energetic history first. So that was a discovery we made, I think about a year into the business. It really changed the way we did things. And so the trauma is removed, Lisa, but the memory is still there. So if you're reading the record of the land, if you have that capacity, the memory will always be there, but the trauma won't. So that's important, you know.
It's very important. And it's the same thing I tell my students about the Akashic records, and really my clients very often, because it's like we remove the trauma, but that doesn't mean you forget or lose the lesson.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
still remember our life. It doesn't disappear, but that trauma, those sharp pains that are related to it, the triggers that are related to it, right, get to go away so you can remember it how you remember it. And often all of that helps with doing work around forgiveness, right? Because when we remove that traumatic pain, we can move into that place of forgiveness. So I imagine
Yeah.
that that's a benefit of FLFE.
Well, that's a good segue. Um, I just want to say it's really nice to talk to you. And even just before we were chatting before the interview started, it's like, gosh, I think we said some really good things that were, would have been nice to, if we could say them again, if we can remember. But when someone's been in the field and working for decades, like yourself, you can give real life examples of the principles we talk about and relate it to your own work. So I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, so in FLFE, we have a pretty big science focus because it is a nonlinear technology, and we recognize the importance of putting the mind at peace. We have invested heavily in research, and we have two doctors in our research department. One is our in-house PhD, it's Dr. Paula Bellwood, and we have Dr. Gary Schwartz as well. Dr. Gary Schwartz is an iconic figure in the frontier science field. He's written 15 books. I think he's got 400 white papers. It's hard to remember all the things he's accomplished. He's a graduate from Harvard, Yale, and created the Center for Consciousness Research at the University of Arizona, which he's retired from. He's now the director of research for FLFE. We're very fortunate to have him. So he designed a survey for the FLFE community, the subscribers, which is not necessarily easy. There's a certain way you have to ask questions to have statistical validity and objectivity. And there was several main benefits of FLFE that came out of the survey. One was to change a negative thought it was easier in an FLFE environment or in the FLFE high consciousness field to change a negative thought to a positive thought, right? The second one was the ability to forgive self and others, as you've said. And I think the third was better sleep. And then there's just a sequence of benefits after that. So that was interesting that you said that was a perfect segue into, well, what are the benefits of a high consciousness field? And so we were able to quantify those.
Fascinating. And, I just love that because, of course, all of us, which I know there's going to be so many more spiritual seekers, people on a spiritual path over these next even few years. I've been feeling, I know, I imagine you both are also all of the energy shifting just this year, just in the last few months. I know it's just going to really kind of continue going up and up and up as we go towards 2030, right? So it's a process, thankfully. I always tell my students, it's really easier to wake up slowly. I know a lot of us are anxious to be there, but there is not actually a place, even in David Hawkins, scale. Enlightenment is 700 to 1,000. And I love that because it's not a there. Right? And I think so many spiritual seekers think about, being awake as a there, right? So I know so many people are experiencing it. And I believe that, FLFE is supporting the awakening and these shifts. And because we get kind of blasted by the solar flares, even, by our solstices and equinoxes and all of the planetary alignments, we feel those energies. And I feel that having FLFE running in my house for the last 5 years has held a constant, which has just made it so much easier in all ways for me and my family. So I just want to add in that I have 3, they're now 30 and 31. I have identical twins, and they have an older brother who's all of a year older. But anyway, but I remember when they were teenagers, right? And even, with the consciousness, I believe, that I've been holding in the house and the Akashic work, and now with that added support of FLFE, that they're just amazingly lovely humans. Right? I think it makes it so much easier to be a kind, conscious, loving, forgiving, caring, giving person when we're held in that frequency that FLFE is holding us in all the time, 24/7. So it's so amazing to me in so many ways. So, yeah, any added, I know I love the uniqueness. So why don't I let you talk about that a little bit, Jeffrey, because it is so much different than any other tool out there.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, your experience is fairly common for people. Yeah, what's different about FLFE is it's the entire property for the home service. So it goes right to the boundaries of the property. And, there's that clearing we've talked about. There's also some compensation for other factors that lower consciousness. So, the idea is to create the most optimal space, the bubble of love, you could call it, where we can grow and be ourselves and really become that true self. And that's filtering out as many negative influences as possible and mitigating or harmonizing, influences that are coming in. So some of those are, like we said, consciousness fields from the past, trauma, but there's also geopathic stresses. So these would be the movement of water, even the movement of traffic, like if you have a traffic circle near your house and there might be water, like a lake or a river, that flow of energy can do really unexpected things that may lower the consciousness of a place. And so we use kinesiology, consciousness kinesiology, as Clayton, like a reverse engineered Dr. Hawkins' work there, and has taught it to me and then others in the company. So we're testing the level of consciousness of properties as they come on in bulk with a team of people, and then Clayton checks their work generally. So we've occasionally would find some were lower that didn't reach that unconditional love zone. So then we would look into it more deeply, what's happening there, go on, Google Earth and look at the property. So that's just another sort of benefit of FLFE is it's cleaning up those moving water, whatever is causing a lower consciousness. And that includes EMFs or electromagnetic fields. So we discovered those were lowering consciousness in properties. And we have this promise that properties are at that 550 or above 98% of the time, or we cease the billing for the subscription and we work on it until we fix it. So it's just part of keeping that pristine as possible environment. And these EMF mitigation kind of programs that are built into the consciousness field kind of look like bubbles to people that are able to see it. We've had a couple of people tell us, yes, I see these bubbles. They're like multiple layers, and they're filtering these outside, influences. And so high consciousness is a natural filter for negative thoughts. and negative consciousness fields. So that's part of, I think it may be part of being able to turn a negative thought into a positive thought is one of the top benefits. Part of it is just getting a little bit of distance from your thoughts. And Dr. Schwartz saw that as one of the benefits when he first went on the service. That is really important because then you can see, oh, I'm thinking a negative thought rather than just being in it, and not having that awareness and then being able to shift. So, there's many things going on in the bubble. The EMF mitigation, the land kind of constantly looking at the land and clearing and doing these geopathic stress mitigations.
Well, and I actually did not realize that you were really specifically looking at every property, like yourselves with a team, to see what's going on there, right? I know back in the olden days, I remember some different systems. It would be like they'd put your photo on a thing, whatever, and send energy to it. But this is really amazing that is so specific, that every property that comes online, and that's included when you do your 15-day free trial of FLFE. And the other thing, so I think that's amazing, and we'll talk a little bit about the free trial. But the other thing that we have going on is Jeffrey and Clayton have turned on this high consciousness field here with us right now live. So it has been on since we started recording. That will stay in the recording if you go back and you listen again later. And so what I just want to say to everyone who's watching is just take a moment to feel what you're feeling now. I always just like to, take a nice, slow, deep breath, dropping down into our heart center and feeling ourselves in our body. And noticing what you notice. Do you feel lighter? Do you feel a little happier? Maybe that worry that you showed up with is gone because you're held in this higher frequency, which really allows us to transform with ease and grace. I love it. And I think it's interesting because before, kind of way before we decided to have this conversation, and I saw all the beautiful bubble art, which everyone will see on this page, I always used to say, I live in a bubble. and I don't leave the house very often. I really literally kind of have created this bubble. But part of that over this last 5+ years has been assisted, held, and maybe even that's where that consciousness dropped in from, was the FLFE kind of energetic bubble. So even though I don't see it per se, often we are very clairsentient. We're cognizant. We know things, we feel things. They're more subtle than, being clairvoyant or seeing everything. But we know it, we experience it, we feel it. And so again, I always am reminding my students, notice everything. Notice what you feel, what you sense, what you know, what you hear, what you see. But it's not just clairvoyance and clairaudience that we focus on, because truly intuitive knowingness, receiving wisdom from the Akashic records or your higher self or angels, guardians, guides, comes in many different ways. And I know that this FLFE bubble is assisting us in doing that with greater ease, whether it's really conscious or not. But that's why I really suggest that people just take a few minutes while you're watching, and just, you could put this on pause for a minute and, oh, what am I feeling? Write some notes. And then when you click the button below and sign up for your 15-day free trial, then really journaling is such a great way to continue to pay attention and notice what's changing. 2 weeks is a long time to start to notice and have things shift slowly with ease and grace over that 2-week period, as you notice, oh, I'm feeling happier. I'm not worrying as much. My relationships are a little bit easier, right? All of those amazing benefits that we experience. So it's really a wonderful thing to, pay a bit of attention to. So we've talked a little bit about FLFE's technology to help people with limiting beliefs and to access higher states of consciousness. I don't know if there's any other research or, stories that come to mind, Clayton, that you might want to share about people, because sometimes we get these amazing sudden, kind of pops of awareness or consciousness, or things can change really quickly. They can be that slow shift, and then those beautiful flashes of awakening. So, yeah, anything you'd like to share with
Yeah.
us?
Well, I did a little bit of consciousness kinesiology before we started because I was reading about your background and I was trying to put together a statement relating high consciousness fields to Akashic records. So I do have one statement here, and it says the high consciousness field makes the Akashic records easier to access as the veil is thinned between dimensions. Now that calibrates at 1,000 out of 1,000 on the Hawkins scale of consciousness. So just because I'm a consciousness geek and a measurer, I thought I would share that with you, and you might appreciate that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. I totally appreciate that. Yes. Well, and to me, it's so exciting because, yes, I know that it helps, but to boost it to 1,000 is pretty phenomenal. So thank you
Yeah,
for
you have to get that
sharing.
language right. Like we were looking up definitions of Akashic records and measuring the level of conscious of those. And so we played around for a little while before we got on the call with you. Um, why don't I tell you, maybe I'll leave more of the research for Jeff, but I had this story coming to mind. So we had this lady so FLFE, we also have a service where you can put the high consciousness field on an object that you take with you. So a lot of people use their cell phones because it's really easy to when you go on the website, you can just enter your cell phone number and it harmonizes the consciousness lowering EMFs that emanate from your cell phone. And it creates a 300-foot bubble of positive energy around you. Most of the big work, if you will, is in a 9-foot bubble. But that's something you can take with you. And that was could have emerged out of Jeff and I wanting to have this energy around us all the time. We had it on our properties. It's like, well, we got to figure out a way to take this with us because it just feels so good. We don't want to be without it. So I thought I'd mention that. And the story that comes to mind for me, uh, I would say it's a peer to us, Lisa, because we all three of us work in this field. There was a lady in Spain who was a psychologist, and very well trained professional woman, had a practice for a long time, and she had had a number of events happen in her life in a sequence. She'd had someone in her family uh, die, and her husband had like stage 4 cancer. It was very severe, and she felt that she just fell into a dark hole and couldn't get out. And this was a woman who, by her own reckoning, said she had a blessed life. And you would think that she would have the resources, if anybody did, to sort of manage that challenge, that that severe life change that she was experiencing. But she just, you know, she just couldn't do it. And hmm, sometimes what happens in a house, if somebody dies or they pass over, there's a lot of grief, you know. Understandably, it's not bad, but the level of conscious no, and the level of consciousness of grief is 50, right? And I remember when my wife and I were looking for a house, we went to this one property, it was beautiful, and the one person had a stroke and they were close to death. And we were looking through the house, and in the bedroom, because we had to see the house, the energy in there was very low. It was 50, and you could just feel the sadness and the despair and the disappointment in that this is how my life is going to end. Probably, I'm probably going to die from this stroke. And so I imagine that the consciousness field of the sadness of the cancer and the person in their family passing had sort of impregnated itself or infused itself into the house. So, like even in this office, right? I have drywall around me. We have a block wall on the outside, and all the material in the office, some of it's crystal, and the crystal holds energy and holds consciousness. So just like the land clearing, of course, it includes all of those things that are cleared. When she put FLFE on her house, uh, she just felt like she got popped out of this dark hole that she'd fell into. And for me, that was really profound because she'd been as a professional for decades, very well trained person, very resourced. And the negative consciousness field that had sort of followed those events affected her in such a way that she was getting depressed. And so that's just the power of consciousness fields. Like it just helps you. Sometimes we're at a tipping point in our life, and if we had that little bit of extra help, like you said, that trampoline where we just don't go much, or the environment doesn't go below that level, it helps us transcend those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great example. And it honestly reminds me very often of my students who will say, I can access the Akashic records in class with
Mm.
you, right? Because
Yes.
I'm holding the field. And you've got 50 other students also in this field, but when I'm on my own I can't. And I would venture to say that again, I think this is perfect for everyone on the planet. But those people who are on a spiritual path, but that kind of one step forward, two steps back, where they just and I completely agree. It is us and our whole auric field and the condition of our chakra system and all the other people that might be in your body, in your energy field, right? Those people, it might not be your low energy, but it might be your friend, family members, people you work with, right? All of that affects us. So when you're putting this bubble around your house, that will of course affect everyone in the house, and then you put it on your phone so you carry it with you wherever you go. It's really a phenomenal shift from most of humanity, according to Dr. David Hawkins, is under 200. Now, I think there was a point before he crossed where he said we've kind of busted through that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know where we are, if you have a number, Clayton, of kind of where humanity is at this point. It might have dropped way back down.
Well, we
I'm
we
sure
we
it is.
went over 200 in about 1986, right around the time of the harmonic convergence. It wasn't because of that, but before that, up until that point in history, there's been places on the planet that were high, but not the whole planet overall. It wasn't above 200. There's some of the cathedrals in Europe and some of the pilgrimage sites, which the energy of FLFE emulates. Those are 500, the pilgrimage sites, 550, 600, some of the cathedrals even 700. These are extraordinary places that are almost unprecedented in the history of humanity. So the world had gone up to about to the 240s in 2019, right? So you have the level of consciousness, then you have the integrated level. That's the level that doesn't go below 98% of the time, as Jeff said earlier, with our properties. So you need to, there's always a bit of a fluctuation, right? It's just natural. So the world went down during COVID, down to 100 in April of 2020, which was like it hadn't been that low since the Dark Ages, the 1400s, right? And then we came up again, went over 200. Then the war in Ukraine started, and we went down again. And then, so it's fluctuated. And now it's on the upswing, and it's in the 240s again. But the integrated level is quite a bit lower. Like in the 2019, it was, say, in the mid 240s. It was like, say, in the high 230s integrated. So it's pretty stable. Now it's going up, but it's got a lot more wave in it. It's a little less stable.
Mm. Yeah, well, that is that is good to hear though, because I keep telling people that no matter what it looks like out there, the vibration is raising, and it will continue, hopefully nice and steady and a little faster, but we will see. But thank heavens that's back. So the one other thing I want to talk a little bit about, because it's a big deal in our world also, is like EMFs and all the 5G and all of these other energies that are affecting us on a regular basis. And so I don't know if Jeffrey, you want to address that, if that's kind of your piece or not, or Clayton.
Sure.
But
Yeah, happy to talk about it.
yeah.
Yeah, we discovered that those electromagnetic fields lower consciousness. Now, there's different types of electromagnetic fields. So we're talking primarily when we bring it up, it's sort of man-made artificial ones. We refer to the ones that lower consciousness as consciousness lowering electromagnetic fields. And then of course there's positive ones that could raise consciousness. Some of the fields emitted by the earth and the sun, and perhaps in the woods by the trees or loving pet. So there's a lot of fields, electromagnetic fields, either electrical or magnetic or combination, um, that are affecting us. And so these, 3G, 4G, 5G satellites, those are lowering consciousness. So we knew we had to do something so that the environment would remain as pristine as possible. And so we discovered that shungite, and we use the energetic signature of shungite in the FLFE bubble, is very helpful to sort of convert the negative or consciousness lowering effect to become even consciousness raising, where it actually goes up. And when we've done these EMF programs, we call them, where we're creating the shungite in these bubbles that we've talked about, we see the average consciousness level of all the homes on the surface actually go up 5 points or more. So it becomes a positive influence. And what we also build in is enough stimulation for our evolution, because we don't want to put ourselves in a bubble or cover ourselves in foil and we don't get any stimulation. Then as soon as the foil comes off, we don't feel good because we haven't evolved, or our body hasn't adapted. So that's an important part of what we do, is let some through. Enough to stimulate, but not enough to cause harm. So that's a big part of the way our EMF is set up. And the research, the science is really interesting too on the website. If you go to the research page, we've got 3 EMF studies and a 4th one that we're still analyzing the data, where we figured the best way to look at this is, how do people feel? How do their EMF symptoms, if they're sensitive, change when they go in an FLFE environment? And so we work with some experts on EMF sensitivity at the university. gosh, which one? I can't think of it.
Pennsylvania, I think.
Pennsylvania. Thanks, Clayton. And created a list of symptoms. And then with Dr. Gary Schwartz's help, a questionnaire was developed. And then we did some testing to validate that questionnaire. So then we did a series of studies where we recruited people, and they did, a series of those surveys, and we could see, all the symptoms decreased. And this was 33 different symptoms. Now, the ones that were the strongest symptoms, which tended to be anxiety, sleeplessness, insomnia, brain fog, sometimes joint pain, headaches, those symptoms, which tended to be at the high list for people, decreased the most with FLFE. So in these 3 studies, and we're seeing this with the 4th study, the symptoms that dropped the most were in that group generally, anxiety, sleep, brain fog. Sometimes depression showed up in 2 of the studies, which was interesting. And we don't really know and we're not making medical claims, but we're just reporting the data that showed up.
And that's so huge, right? There's so many people that are affected by, all of these energies, and they don't feel like there's anything they can really do about it, right? Because how do you block that if you don't block it with FLFE, right? It's not like there's a lot of simple answers, or people buy, multi-$1,000 machines that you have to keep in your house, but then you can't carry it with your phone, with you. So,
yeah, we have customers who have called in during webinars who, they were housebound. It was so bad. They were unable to drive to the store because there was a power plant, transformers, and then of course a lot of EMFs in the store. And so they really were, their world got smaller and smaller. And when they went on the free trial, they were able to get in the car and drive to the store and shop. And that was just huge for them.
Yeah, that's huge. Absolutely. So let me talk a little bit about this wonderful, generous gift that you have for us. And just also, as a reminder, you were talking about the science page, and there's a button down below that will take you to the science page for those of you who love the science and want to read a bunch more. And so, we also have a 15-day free trial, and that offers a risk-free opportunity to experience this beautiful high consciousness field, really allowing you 15 days to explore it, what it feels like for you with your phone in the store. What's that, what is changing, what's getting easier, what's getting lighter, how's your health, right? How are you feeling physically? All of those things. And so the amazing thing is it really is the full product plus, honestly, because not only are you getting that free 24/7 high consciousness field, there's no credit card required, there's no commitment, it's not going to turn on and start charging you after 15 days because they don't even have your credit card. So this truly is a beautiful 15-day totally free gift for you to try it out. And then when you feel how much better you feel that lightness and that happiness and just the ease in life coming back, then you just sign up, right? And you can go and register yourself, and they will continue that on your house or apartment, wherever you live, and I think, or your phone. So it's an amazing chance to try it with no strings and really see how you feel. So I am so excited for everyone to experience this. It has made huge changes in my life and my whole family living in a bubble for the last 5 years. I am so grateful to Jeffrey and Clayten for that beautiful gift. And everything is on the page below. So you can just jump, down there and sign up. And, it's just as easy as that. And you can and start enjoying FLFE for yourselves. So thank you, Clayten. Thank you, Jeffrey. I am very honored to have spent this time and been able to learn more and pick your brains and have this beautiful bubble around us as we had this conversation. So thank you both so much.
It's lovely to meet you, Lisa.
Thank you. You too.